Okay, so most people who are familiar with you or familiar with our company are familiar with your story of getting off of benzodiazepines and your utilization of Amanita to help you do that. And that's a big core part of it's really why the company started in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, right? And it's been something that is very near and dear to us because it is such a applicable way in which we can provide real value to people. You know what I mean? Like real medicine. Um, and this sort of benzodiazepine experience that you had in your own little hero's journey with it, this is something that is unfortunately affecting a lot of fucking people right now, millions of Americans, right? And I think that sometimes when you tell people this, hey, you can take that little red dot, the little red mushroom with the white dots, and it helps you get off Xanax. It can sound a bit unbelievable, but once you start unpacking it, which we kind of plan to do in this video, but once you start unpacking it at the material level and the sort of like idealistic level as well, too, it makes a lot of sense, right? And it's your story. You lived through it. We have I don't know how many customers at this point who have lived through it.
Hundreds and hundreds, yeah, if not
Yeah,
thousands.
yeah, dude. So, like, could you briefly tell people your story of getting off benzos using Amanita? And then I don't want to say give them a how to because I think me and you both know it's a bit disingenuous. Everyone's experience is so different. But if you could give, the average bear some advice when it comes to that, what would you tell them?
Yeah, yep. So in 2019, I decided that it was time to get off of Klonopin, which I had been taking since I was 20 years old, 19 years old. I knew what I was getting into. I knew what I was into at that point. It was one of the most nerve-wracking things to get off of, and I had gotten off of a plethora of other substances in the past, but they all say that benzo withdrawal is the worst. And from my personal experience, I can absolutely attest to that. It's absolutely awful. It can last for years and years for people, and it's really not withdrawal at this point. It's a damaged GABA and glutamate system that one is dealing with. Um, but yeah, so I won't go into the whole story, but a year into this benzo withdrawal, I found these mushrooms growing, and there was this extremely potent magnetic allure to them. And I picked them and I went to the house and did some research, and there was no positive information online except for one woman who I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, and that's Amanita Dreamer. And she claimed that they healed her brain when she was going through benzo withdrawal. And she broke down the pharmacology of it, which I then, meticulously researched and found out that, yeah, indeed, they Amanita has, two main compounds. One works on the GABA system and one works on the glutamate system, the two systems that benzodiazepines just so happen to damage. Really wasn't like Dreamer had some protocol for how to do this from her own personal experience. But that was really it as far as information online for how to get off of how to utilize Amanita to heal the brain, or to get off of benzo withdrawal. So I kind of played around with it and tried to do it as intuitively as I could. I started with a really really tiny microdose, and in that I found relief that I hadn't felt for years. It was unbelievably powerful. And when I say tiny microdose, I'm talking like 50 milligrams. Like it was a microdose. Um, and and yeah, I started taking it. I started microdosing it consistently, and then I peppered in some larger doses. I would do 3 gram dose, 5 gram dose, 7 gram dose. I don't think I went above the 7 gram dose limit at this point, but I would space those out maybe once or twice a week. And then I microdose consistently, multiple times a day, about a half gram consistent. And within a couple weeks, it felt like I healed 80, 90%. Now, what I've been finding is I don't want to say an anomaly, but if we're looking at like a bell curve scale, like I'm more on the side that Amanita helped me more and quicker than it maybe would help another person. However, that fits with the story and in the model that we've been following. Like it makes sense that it was extraordinarily helpful for me. However, what we're finding is it's maybe hands down the best substance on the face of this earth to help people get through benzo withdrawal. And another thing that we have to say is, we're not doctors. We can't make any health claims. I can't guarantee that this is going to work for anybody. We're just scraping data, scraping data, and finding out what works. And anecdotally, what we see time and time again is that it seems to really, really help. It seems to really help provide a lot of relief, and it seems to really help one rewire the brain, and heal these damaged systems. So what we're finding is that anecdotally, it seems that the best protocol is to microdose consistently. We're talking multiple times a day, daily, maybe around a half gram. You can watch our microdosing Amanita video to get more information about how to microdose properly. And yeah, it seems to provide nearly instantaneous relief, and then it seems to heal these systems in the brain, and rewire and allow for healing and long lasting relief. And then I also think that, like, from my own personal experience doing this intuitively, it really did help me to do these larger doses or low to medium dose range doses. Those seem to, like if microdosing was a consistent linear progression in healing, it seemed like those larger doses like quantumized it and brought me up considerably further in my healing journey. So, and something to think about if one isn't comfortable with the idea of getting a little bit intoxicated under Amanita, then don't do that at all. But for me, it seemed to help.
Right. Right. And it's I don't think that everybody, I think most people, when you bring up this idea of there's a benzodiazepine problem or a benzodiazepine epidemic, I think most people would probably intuitively, just off the bat, kind of agree with that. But I don't know if most people fully understand the full scope of exactly what's going on right now within the United States alone. But there's an interesting global market for it as
For
well
sure.
too. But there is this certain indoctrination and programming that I feel like is our country is a hotbed for. And that loops into your story. You experienced that. So can you kind of speak on that and how so many people fall into this trap with benzos?
Yeah. I mean, and this conversation gets into a lot of the issues with the current medical establishment, which we don't need to get into in this video. But it's easy to say that it's easy to understand and know intuitively and know experientially and through people's stories that there are a handful of really prominent issues with the current system that we live under. I mean, I don't think a lot of doctors really understand what's going on, and what these drugs are really doing to people. I know we've heard story after story after story of people that are looking to get off of these drugs, and they just get a tapering protocol from their doctor, and are expected to just be able to do it just fine, and that's generally not the case. Like, getting off of benzodiazepines is extremely hard. Um, so it's just not something that seems to be known and understood in the medical establishment. And like you mentioned earlier, there's millions and millions of Americans that are prescribed benzodiazepines daily. It is an epidemic. It's not spoken about as much as the opioid epidemic, because people aren't dying from overdoses left and right. But it's truly like, hurting a lot of people and a lot of people's families, and the repercussions from taking benzodiazepines for years and years can be really profound. Like, by the end of it, my memory was completely shot. For instance, like, my intelligence level was so much lower than it should be innately, or than it is innately. I was, somewhat of a shell of the individual that I was prior to coming into all this. So yeah, I mean, it's a big problem, and it's so beautiful that there appears to be this most iconic mushroom in the world that's in front of all of our faces all the time, that just might be, the best way to help people get off of these substances. And not only that, it provides the same relief for people that have it seems to provide the same relief for people that have issues that they would be taking benzos for in the first place. So it's a really wonderful alternative, to benzodiazepines. Not only that, it can help people get off of them.
One of the things that you and I have talked about a lot is the importance of the sort of like cultural matrix that goes around these different plant medicines with their potential to, help you heal and help you on your healing path. Um, with this benzodiazepine topic in particular, if someone's looking to use Amanita muscaria as a different kind of microdose to, help them get off of benzos for all the reasons that you just listed out, it's one of, if not probably the most efficacious tool for that. But as we know, there's a very important matrix that goes into all of these things. And so, how does someone build a healthy matrix for themselves within this particular circumstance of being addicted to benzodiazepines and or alcohol? Um, how do they build that matrix around Amanita? And I guess sort of like, what are some things people can do besides just Amanita or in combination with Amanita that serve as this sort of rocket fuel?
That's a question. Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of goes back to the plant medicine discussion. Like, intention is so important. It seems the mushroom seems to be intelligent. It seems to be living. It seems to be some sort of consciousness and some sort of entity that works with us. It's not just like a inert, mushroom. There's energy and consciousness behind it as well. So there's this resonance that we can build up with the mushroom itself. And to do this, we set intention. We build a relationship with it. So we're not just taking something because it's going to help. We're taking something and tuning into that frequency, and we're talking to it, and we're asking it questions, and we're expressing our intention. Um, I mean, I think that's the easiest way to like start, yeah, building that matrix.